good. It's getting warmer. Sturdy chair, always good. You might have to experiment to find which chair you like the best or which one works the best. So try them out. It's the only way to really find out. And breathing. Let's breathe. Let's do some breathing together. So we'll sit up nice and tall. And for this beginning, I'm not going to use the back of the chair, but you have to decide whether or not. So you can't really see, but this is my back of my chair. I have some space, and that's going to give me a chance to feel the spine extending up without any support. So I just see how that's working, how that's feeling for me today. And at the same time, I'd like the knees to be about a 90-degree angle. So the knee is over the ankle. So if I turn sideways all the way like this, so I have a vertical, horizontal, and then a vertical spine. And then the crown of the top of my head is horizontal. So I try not to drop the chin down or lift it up. And that's important to maintain the alignment of the spine, the alignment of the body. You could also do this standing. If you're not into sitting right now, I'll demonstrate it standing. So we call each of these mountain pose. So this is standing mountain pose. Oftentimes, traditionally, it's taught with the feet together. It's not the most comfortable way for me, so I spread my feet apart a little bit. So adjust your feet so they're comfortable and you feel supported. That's the most important thing, is I feel like there's a straightness of support up from the feet all the way up through the spine, through the crown of the head, like this. And if I turn sideways, notice vertical, instead of the legs being bent, they're straight, and then spine is vertical up top. And the face is pointed straight ahead. So I'm not dropping the chin and not lifting it up. So that's important. And I move the shoulders back a little bit to broaden the chest. So there's an opening from the sternum out to the armpit, and also a spreading of the collarbones. The clavicle here spreads to the side. And it's just a little feeling. It's a small feeling. And behind me, the shoulder blades move slightly together. So this is them apart, and this is them together. We often, because we sit at the computer, we tend to sit like this. If you probably don't notice, we sit like this with the head forward. To counteract that, we sit up straight, we move the shoulders back, and we also move the arms back to help with that. And also we need to engage the belly a little bit. So if the belly's too soft, it sticks out like this. And the back gets we get a sway back like this. So I want to firm the belly up so that the spine is a little curved at the lumbar, but not overly. And then that supports the back. And that's our mountain pose. So whether or not you're seated or standing, it's good to do it both ways. Maybe try one way this class, and then if you get a chance later in the day, or if you're standing in line somewhere, even at, say, the grocery store, try mountain pose. Try mountain pose, just standing up tall, and no one will notice at first. If you stay like that too long, you'll look like a statue and people start to look at you. But if you do it just for maybe 30 seconds, no one will notice. Sitting up tall and breathing. And exhale. And I always encourage people, this especially right now, pollen is so challenging. Keep a Kleenex handy and blow your nose. The reason for that is that if your nose is stuffed up, when the pollen gets in your nose, the mucus tends to build up a little bit more, because the mucus is in part response to stuff that we get in the nose. And when the mucus builds up in the nose, the air doesn't pass as well. And it's restricted harder to breathe through the nose, which means it's harder to get a good breath through the nose. And it's more calming. So feel free to grab a tissue or have a tissue handy. And now sitting up nice and tall, always coming back to the breath, good posture, good breathing. Relaxing the shoulders down, softening the face and the eyes. Feeling the soles of the feet firmly on the floor. Feel evenness in the soles of the feet. Make them feel even. Make the buttocks feel even. So that may mean that sometimes we lean and don't notice it. So we might need to correct ourselves. The good thing about being on a Zoom, if you have a regular computer with a camera, you could actually turn the camera on and then spotlight yourself. I don't know if you can do it with this one, but with this Zoom class, but you can get Zoom for free. Everyone can sign up for Zoom for free. If you want it to be able to have more people and last longer, to say do an hour class, they make you pay. But if you're just doing something short, you don't have to pay. But you can look at yourself and you can see, am I even or am I leaning? And we have a tendency, because of the way that we sit and the way that we stand, we lean without noticing. So we want to make ourselves nice and even. And we're just keeping breathing. Feeling the belly going in and out with the breath. And then you can allow the breath to come a little higher into the ribs. That's our 2-part breath. And the 3-part breath is belly, ribs, and then a little bit of opening in the chest, right at the apex of the lungs up here. A little extra expansion. The biggest movement happens down here. There's less in the middle, and even less up top. Small movement up here. And of course, we're always doing this in a relaxed way. We're encouraging the breath, but without straining. And that takes practice. Oftentimes we go back and forth between too much effort, and then we dial it back maybe a little too much. And then eventually you kind of get in the middle where it feels effortful but not straining, and effortful and it's achieving what you want. So it's not down at the low end. It's in the middle. Now let's begin with the sound of Om. So this is our yoga for the voice. Feel free to close the eyes here, so you can really focus in on feeling and hearing the sound. So now we're not only feeling the sound in the throat and the vocal cords, we're listening carefully. So it's the ah. Remember the shape of the mouth. Big mouth for the ah, and then the o, so sort of a pucker, fish mouth. And the last one, we close the mouth gently and almost like a bee buzzing. But we do each, they flow into one into the other. So let's take a breath in. We'll go for about 30 seconds or so. So we'll begin the first one together, and then go ahead and whatever your natural rhythm is of breathing. So the sound, we just make it on the exhalation. We breathe normally in. Inhale. Relaxing the face and eyes. Keep going. Softening the jaw, the tongue, and the throat. Keep going. Releasing the shoulders and the arms and the hands. And one last Om. Take a pause and listen to the silence. Whenever you get a chance, take a pause and see if you can hear some silence. Even if there's other noises around, the silence is still there. And let's do the Brahmari. So Brahmari is another pranayama. So an Om is really like a pranayama. It's a breath work in yoga. And Brahmari is the bumblebee sound, really. So vibration in the throat, it's the notice how the mouth is closed. And I do my best to keep my face relaxed, to really feel like there's effort, but there's a softness with it. And we want to start very softly and then build up and then end very softly. So it's one smooth, like I guess a roller. I'm thinking of a graph where a bell curve on a graph, if anybody remembers that from school. But maybe a roller coaster is a better way. So although a roller coaster goes fast at the end, going down, but we want it to be a smooth up and down. So the volume gets higher, thinking about the smoothness rather than the volume. The smoothness is what we're looking for. And if you're tired of sitting, you can stand. And if you're tired of standing, you can sit. Just come into your good posture. Remember the 3 curves in the back. Excuse me. We have the curve going in the lumbar spine. And then the thoracic spine goes out. And then the cervical spine and the neck is going in. And the curves are relatively small. So we don't want a flat back. We don't want flat curves, and we don't want really big curves. So sitting up nice and tall, take a couple of breaths. Maybe give a little sigh. And we'll do the Brahmari just like we did the Om sound. We'll begin to gather and then follow your own breath. When your Brahmari, when your exhalation is complete, breathe in a natural breath and begin again. So inhale, we'll just begin. Relaxing the face and eyes. Softening the throat and the heart. Keep buzzing. Relaxing the shoulders. And then last one. Notice the silence. We'll bring the palms together and we'll begin with some sun breaths. Inhaling up, warming the shoulders up. So as the arms are circling around, As we inhale, broaden the chest so the shoulder blades begin to come together and the chest begins to lift forward. So it begins to open forward like this. And perhaps you'll notice that there's a little bit of rocking down with the pelvis. There's this natural feeling that happens when I lift the chest, the pelvis begins to rock slightly forward. So I get a little more curve in the lumbar spine too, down here. And so I want a little bit of rocking. Actually, bring the arms down for one moment. Let's just rock on the sitting bones for a moment, placing the hands on the knees. And then we'll do it using the abdomen. So we'll do it with contracting the abdomen. So when the muscles shorten here, it pulls the front of the pelvis up and the pelvis tips back slightly. And when we release it and the back muscles shorten, then this side of the pelvis gets pulled up. So we get this rocking. Notice the pelvis is right here. So my pelvis, the front hip bones, you can tell if they're rocking because if you put your fingers on the front hip bones, you'll feel them moving back and forth. And we can control that with the belly. So there's the inhalation, belly softens, the hips rock forward, exhalation, it's a contraction, and the hips rock back a little. We don't want to overdo it, especially going backwards like this. This is very hard. These big bends on especially the lumbar spine does not like big bends. It's also usually the easiest part of the spine to move, maybe except for the neck so we can tend to overarch or bend the spine, the lumbar, in one direction or the other. So let's try that again with the sun breath, inhaling and then letting the hips rock a little forward as the hands are rising up and the heart is opening. We're looking for movement down here, movement in the spine, but stability. So if we overdo it, if we overbend, we lose the stability. So we want to have the firmness in the belly. We've been working with the firmness in the belly and the buttocks and the legs to stabilize the pelvis in previous classes. It's the same idea here. It's this rocking of the pelvis, and this opening, and perhaps the chin is lifting up ever so slightly. Please don't drop the head backwards. A tiny bit is okay. And then let's go the other way, dropping the hands and then inhaling, coming up on the outside. And so now the rocking's still happening, but the connection between the arms and the shoulders and the pelvis is slightly different. So again, being mindful you don't over rock back like this. It can help to think about sitting up as you do that and extending the spine up at the same time. It's hard to bend. If the spine is lengthening, it doesn't, the musculature won't allow it to bend quite so much because the muscles are elongating. And so it helps with stability when we elongate the muscles and then bringing the hands down, rolling the shoulders. Let's do one and then the other. So we have that swimming. Think about a circle with the shoulder around like this. And then alternate. One and then the other. One and then the other. Keeping the neck relaxed if you can. So this is actually relaxed up here. The face is relaxed. We're trying to just get the shoulders working. Even the lower back is relaxed here. Middle back's doing a little bit of work. Right between the shoulder blades. And then going the other way. Now let's do a few cactus breaths. We'll add some hugs in a minute, starting out with just inhaling and broadening the heart, opening the chest. Like you're going to do a swan dive. Anybody's a diver. It's like we're opening our hearts. And then if you'd like, you can give yourself a hug. Remember, you can start down low and then gradually work your way up to whatever point, whatever your maximum is, or maybe not even maximum. Think about maybe 80%. Because remember, we're not straining. Usually maximum means strain, or we have a tendency to strain trying to reach a maximum or a more maximum. But think about ease of movement. And how does it feel when you hug yourself? You want it to feel nice. If you do this every day or on a regular basis, you'll gradually see progress in how deeply you can hug yourself. And also how much broader the chest can get. And when we have a broad opening here, it makes room for the lungs to expand. And then bring the hands down. And let's rock from side to side. So I'm going to warm up a little bit with the little core work. So if you put your hand on your belly while you're doing this, you'll notice that there's a firmness here. Or there should be a firmness. So we want the belly to be doing a lot of the work, not just the back. So it's like a sandwich. We have the sandwich here and the sandwich here, and the spine is in between. It's these sets of muscles and the sides too, but it's more the abdomen and the back that are holding us up. So when I do this, I need firmness, not so much tension as firmness. So I'm firming it up, but without being really tense or struggling with it. And the firmer it is, usually the easier it is, the higher you can lift the leg. You'll notice as you begin to lift the leg a little higher, it's more challenging for the abdomen, especially. For the abdomen, we don't want to have the back straining, so there's no pain. We do not want any pain or discomfort in the back when we do this. If you're going to get a little discomfort, if you need a little extra feeling, have it in the belly. But it shouldn't feel strained. It should feel like it's working, doing its job, keeping us lifted up. And not so tight that it's hard to breathe. So I'm still breathing. I can't breathe as deeply, but I'm still breathing. And then coming back down, and then sitting up nice and tall. We'll interlace the fingers. We're going to go back up top now, and we'll extend the arms out like this, and then come back. So try this a couple of times. Be mindful of your wrists here. So if your wrists are sensitive, you'll need to be very gentle with the opening of the fingers. You could also change the interlace each time. So this is my right hand, and this is my right index. Notice it's on top, and then I can change it the next time and make the left one on top. And you can change it back and forth each time. It's a good practice, actually. For one reason, it's intertwining the fingers to practice it in the beginning, it can be, they bump into each other when you try to intertwine them. So it's good to get them so you can do it with relative ease. And the other thing is, it's interesting because one hand always wants to be on top. So my right index, it's more comfortable for me to be this way than this way. And so I try to make it so I just get used to doing it the other way, so it's no big deal. And then I'm going to extend, and I'm going to start to lift up a little bit. So I'm going to come up, extend, and then slowly lift up. And change the interlace, extend, lift up. And at some point, the shoulders are going to start to really rise up, and that's when we've gone far enough with the lifting. So some people may be able to go all the way up, and some people may be able to extend the arms more. Think about bringing the elbows closer together. So my arms aren't as flexible, and my wrists especially are not as flexible here. So I'm not, this is not it's not so easy for me. So I'm mindful about not overdoing it. So let's add the breath to it. So we'll exhale and we'll inhale and exhale down and then lift up like this. So notice how the palms are rotating a little too. Inhale and exhale down. So you could do this standing too if you wanted to. Inhale and exhale. This is similar to a Tai Chi exercise too. In yoga we would call this an upward facing salute. It's really a modification of mountain pose with working the arms. Think about as the arms come up, lengthening the spine by using the arms. So there's a little bit of lift. That micro movement in the spine is happening from the arm movement. And if this bothers your arms or shoulders, a couple of adaptations would be not interlacing the fingers. You could try that. You could also just work with one arm at a time. Sometimes, because we have imbalances between the shoulders, it's easier. One arm actually is a lot easier because it's not, the two aren't relying on each other. They sort of, one starts to pull the other along, the one that doesn't move as well, and that can impinge things. So let's sit up nice and tall. And then if you're standing, please go ahead and sit down. We're going to slide to the back of the chair. We're going to do the joints for a moment, starting with the ankles, and then the other way. We can add the wrists, circling the wrists. Remember, we want to keep the knees stable, so don't let the knees move. If you need to hold them, that's okay. And let's point and flex the feet a few times. When you point and flex the feet, think about not overdoing it. Sometimes our feet will get cramps. If we really work hard to, like, say, point the toes down or lift the toes up, and we want to avoid cramps. They're really uncomfortable, and they take time away from our practice and our life. So if you get cramps, do the exercises, but be mindful to do them a little more gently. And we can add the hands too, like this. And see if you can get them in sync. And then go ahead and soften the fingers. Think of the fingers being soft. Think of the toes being soft here. So bring your attention to feeling the fingers and feeling the toes. The toes will be harder to feel for most people. But you can, with practice, begin to feel them. And then go ahead and rest, and let's lift up one leg. We'll go back and forth with the legs here. Let's warm up a little bit more. This is going to help with the quadricep and start to lubricate the knee a little bit. Notice how the toes are pointing straight up. We can add the arm too. If you want a little more of a challenge, go ahead and add the arm to it. You could even start out with the arm a little bent and then extend it. So just like with the leg, we're lifting up and extending, and then we're bending on the way down. Think about lifting. If you're doing the arm, think about lifting the fingertips up to help extend the spine. Same idea as when we were doing that upward facing salute like this, using the arms to lengthen the spine. Think about the arm helping to lengthen the spine here. So we get a little extra feeling of lift, and at the same time lift the spine. So the leg is coming up, the other foot is pressing down, the opposite arm is lifting up to help lift the spine up. So I'm not going to hold it, although you could, if you want more of a challenge, if you can feel that everything's extending up and you want to pause for a moment and take a breath, and then come down. So you have a choice during your practice to keep generally moving like this. And if you want more of a challenge and you feel like this is easy, then you can pause and hold the position for a breath. So we're breathing in. Coming up. Or you could even do something in between. Don't hold it so long, but just pause and then come back down. So you really have three different ways to do it. You could keep moving the whole time. And if you're feeling stiff today, this is probably better. If you're feeling a little stiff, it's better to keep moving. Holding stuff, holding poses tends to create tension. It can be beneficial because you get more work going, but it needs to fit in with how you're doing. And the other choice is the next step would be to pause for a moment like that, and then come down. And inhale up, pause, and come down. And then the last one would be to come up and inhale. And come down. And if you really wanted to, you could add additional breaths. You could take 2 breaths in place. If one breath is too easy, try 2. But always remembering that we want to have good alignment. So the leg is aligned, the toes are pointed up. I'm able to extend the spine. I'm able to extend the arm. And my face is still soft. So I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing. That's really, it's, if you want to really strain, go to the gym, lift weights. It's probably actually if you want to build, if you're into bodybuilding, then you're probably better off lifting weights than doing yoga. Although yoga is very good and it builds good muscles, you're not going to get big muscles from yoga. And let's bring the arms down and take a few breaths. Let's just do some cactus breaths. So we get the shoulder blades moving here. So inhale and go ahead and give yourself a little hug. And inhale and a hug. And then the next time, if you'd like, after you're in a hug, you can pause there for a moment and take a breath. Shoulders are relaxed. And then inhale and release. And then we wrap ourselves and we take a breath. And then inhale, release, and open. And one more on each side. Inhale in place. Inhale. And And that can be very nice. It's a nice way to really open the back of the body. And since it's a little warmer, it's harder to do that when it's cold. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but let's rock the feet. As it's gotten warmer, hopefully you found your yoga practice to be a little easier. It doesn't mean it's really easy, but it means that we're usually not as stiff. We're not all huddled up when we're sleeping, curled up in a ball. Stay warm. So I'm rocking, and let's rock the hands and the elbows here too. So it's like this. And think about rocking a little forward. So you're coming to the, you can't really see it because I'm sitting, but as I come forward, I'm rocking to the sitting bones are down here. I'm rocking towards the front of the sitting bone up here, where the thigh meets the buttock. And then when I go back the other way, I'm rocking slightly back. So I don't know if I'd call it a pelvic tilting, but I feel the movement underneath on my sitting bones. If you have a firm chair, I can actually feel the bones rocking underneath there. So I'm inhaling, and then back. And notice I'm going forward and back a little bit with the body extended straight. So I'm lengthening. I'm not really rounding the lower back here. I'm rocking back and forth, keeping the torso extended. And that's different from when we were rocking the pelvis like this. Notice how the shape of the spine is different. So I'm rocking forward and back. This is a little bit like when we're circling around, when we're stirring the pot in front of us, so to speak. And it means that I have to really use my abdomen. So if I'm leaning back like this, I'm not curling my back like this. I'm keeping some length. So there's a straightness here, and using the abdomen. And I can adjust myself. If I have a lot of strength in the belly, I can begin to go back. I can even lift my feet up. In yoga, we call this boat pose, or it's the beginning of boat pose. Navasana. But it takes a lot of strength here. So let's try that again. And actually, let's try this. Let's try, let's circle first. Actually, let's circle around. So sitting up tall as you circle, sitting up tall, and perhaps the feet are a little wider, we're moving them wider, so we get that triangle shape here for support. I feel like I'm going to stand up out of the chair almost. And so I'm keeping myself lengthened and looking out across the room, not down. If I look down, there's a tendency to round the back. If I want to look, you could even look a little up. That might be better. And let's go the other way. So the bigger the circles, the more challenging. If you take the hands away, it's more challenging. So what you could do is you could start out just by taking the hands up a little bit, circling the same. And if that's still easy, you can make the circles a little bigger. You could even add lifting up one foot if you wanted, like this. You'll have to go a little slower, lifting up the foot. And actually going slower usually feels harder, requires a lot. It requires more control, and sometimes the the movements, when we get really slow, the movements aren't as smooth. And you could also, I guess you could see if I can, I don't know if we can lift a foot up. I guess we could do this. You could circle the arms around, keep the spine lengthened, feet are lifting up, And hands are up in the air. And you can really feel, especially the sitting bones underneath, because your support with your feet is you only have one, actually, and when you're leaning back, there's hardly any support because most of the weight is back like this. I wonder if you could do it with both feet off. That's hard. So I don't recommend that. You could try it if you're really into it. You could see if you could get both feet off and circle the arms around at the same time if you wanted. So coming back up and taking a couple breaths. Let's do a little swimming. So it's a little bit of turning now in the belly. So we've been working the abdomen, and now we're going to get some turning going. Some turning by moving the elbows back, like we're doing a backstroke. Or you could just move the elbows if you wanted. So your choice, either circling the arms like this, or just moving the elbows back. And you could try each one, and you'll feel they're slightly different. It's almost like when we're circling, we get a little more uplift like this. And when I'm going back like this, it almost feels like I'm getting a little bit more turning, but I don't get as much up. So it depends on what you'd like. They're both good. And let's go the other way, reaching out, crossing the center line and coming down the outside of the other leg. You can let the hand just scrape gently across the outside of the thigh. Go ahead and let the body turn. Almost like I'm leaning over to the side like this. So I'm dropping my shoulder and my whole torso turns. Think about dropping the shoulder, but keeping the spine long. So I'm not rounding. I'm not doing this. This is a rounding. I'm looking down. I want to keep this. It's as if I'm still looking out in this plane up here. So I'm keeping the spine long. And if you feel like you need more support, you could move the feet out a little bit. And as you reach forward, you have a little more ability to press into the feet. And then coming back up and roll the shoulders a few times in the opposite direction. And then take a couple of breaths. And then come back down. Let's do the hands like this. So opening and closing the fingers. And if you're tired of sitting, you would like to stand, feel free to do that. Only standing though if your balance is really good. You can always, so if you're inclined to sit, try adjusting. So if you're standing, keep standing. If you're inclined to sit through the practice, there's nothing wrong with that. A couple of things you can try is, remember the back of the chair, try moving away from it for a minute or two. See if you can keep the back straight. Another option is use a pillow or a blanket. I don't have a pillow here, but if I had I have a pillow down on my sofa, a small one, kind of like this shape. I can put it behind me. And since I'm seated for about an hour, I adjust it a little bit. I move it up and down a little bit. So I might start with it down at the bottom like this. I'm doing my practice with my pillow supporting me down at the bottom. And then in 5 or 10 minutes, I move it up a little bit. And I still lean against the back, but now the position is different. So what's happened is the vertebra in the spine, the shape of the spine has changed slightly. Not a lot, but we move the curve a little bit, and it brings relief to the spine. And then you could even potentially move it a little bit higher, and you work with that, moving it up and down periodically. And that's a great way to get relief if you have to sit for a long time. So it's not just enough to use something behind there, you need to change the position periodically. And you'll have to find out how frequently you need to do it. But if you did it every 5 or 10 minutes, that's a good place to start. And oftentimes people will get a little bit of back relief when they do that. If they can remember, you can always set your clock, just a little alarm, and that'll remind you, adjust your cushion. And sitting up tall, let's do the chin up and down. Keeping the neck relaxed here. And keep the throat soft. So remember, we want the throat to feel like it's open, even when I release the chin down. So if it feels compacted when the chin comes down, then don't bring the chin down so much. Keep it lifted. Remember, you could also put your hand here very gently. Want to be very mindful. The front of the throat is very delicate. We very gently rest the hand, and that helps to keep that area open. And then we'll tip the head. You can add your pillow if you want. Leaning one side a little bit and then the other. You could even use the breath here, inhaling up and exhaling down. Pretty much anything that we do in our yoga class, we're exhaling on the releasing part, the stretching part, and inhaling on the more effort. We're bringing something back to up or lifting something up. That's when we breathe. And when we're going back into the position, we're going back and relaxing, is when we exhale. Remember, the exhale is we get the relaxation response with our exhalations, not the inhalations. And then turning the head gently from side to side. Being mindful of where the chin is here. There's a tendency to lift it up or release it down. You want to keep it right, nice and the face perpendicular to the floor. And then circling. Keeping the shoulders relaxed. Eyes are soft here. Face is soft. Throat is relaxed. And then the other way, please. And then coming back up, roll the shoulders a couple of times. Let's do our eagle arms. So we've been doing a little bit of shoulder work today. So remember, the eagle is, and you can do the legs too if you want. So it's right over left and left over right. So we can do the ankles crossed. We can do the knees crossed like this. So I have right over left, and then the opposite for the arms, left over right. So starting out with a crisscross like this, elbow in the crook of the opposite elbow, and then bringing it up to a V shape, relaxing the shoulders here. Keep breathing. And then if that feels okay, you can begin to bring the arms together and start to intertwine like this. Just keep the spine lengthened. Keep the spine lengthened. I'll turn sideways. The next step, if this feels very comfortable for you and you can breathe, we need to be able to breathe in the position. If you can't breathe, then please unwind. And then if the next step is to begin to move the elbows up and away, still keeping the softness in the shoulders and the face and the eyes. Elbows no higher than the shoulders. You get a nice opening in the shoulder blades here, and you can release whenever you want. So if you start to feel like things are tense or jamming up on you, then please unwind, bring the hands apart, and slowly come down. Remember, do it with control. We always want to do these movements with control. We've got like it's almost like a spring. We're wound up. We don't want to fly with everything comes apart. Let's do the other side. Actually, let's rock from side to side for a moment. Bring yourself into evenness again. And then we'll do the other side. We have the left over right ankle, or you can keep the legs straight. You don't have to. You can keep the legs like this too. You don't have to cross the legs. And then sitting up nice and tall, we have left over right, and we have right over left. Cross elbow and elbow and elbow, crossing the arms, and a V-shaped, keeping the shoulders relaxed, and then finally starting to intertwine. If you need a strap, you can put the strap between the one hand, they hold the strap like this. Inhale. And if this is very comfortable and you can breathe and everything's okay, you can begin to lift the elbows up and away slightly from the chest. Create a little more openness in the chest. Keeping the face and eyes relaxed. Spine is extending here. Don't collapse. The most important thing, especially in eagle pose, is to breathe. If you can't breathe, then please unwind. And then whenever you're ready, we'll release with control, uncross, bring the arms down, uncross the legs. We'll sit up nice and tall. And we'll do one tree pose today. So you can do it seated. I'm going to show it standing. I think we've done it seated is like this, stepping the foot apart, and then bringing the sole of the foot on the outside of the chair leg like this. Arms up. If you're doing it standing, it'll start in mountain pose, same idea. Opening the groin like this, foot steps out. Instead of the outside of the chair leg, it comes to the inside of the calf. And then we extend the arms like this. So go ahead and do the tree pose, stepping the foot out, bringing the sole of the foot in, finding your support, and then extending the arms up, or wherever your branches would like to be today. And if you lose your balance, it's okay. Start again. It happens. Happens to everybody. Life is like that. We lose, even the best people at balance lose their balance sometimes. And then go ahead and we'll bring the arms down. We'll do the other side. So become even before you do the other side. Make yourself feel even on the feet, extending the spine up, and then stepping the other foot out. Now the weight's coming into that other leg, that's still pointed straight ahead. And find a spot for the sole of the foot. And then you can add the arms. So arms either like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. Your choice. I kind of like, it feels more tree-like to me like this, but sometimes it's nice in front of the heart too. And sometimes I get more of a lift with the hands overhead. Remember to breathe. And then when you're ready, you can bring the arms down. Now let's swing the arms. Keeping the knees soft here. Knees are relaxed. So the weight's shifting from one foot to the other, one side of the body to the other. And this works seated or standing. Think about shifting the weight a little bit. And if you're seated, the weight will shift a little bit on the sitting bones underneath you. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to sit down. I'm going to start to warm down with bringing the hands together and some sun breaths. So circling around. Noticing how you're feeling now compared to the beginning of class. Maybe there's a little more freedom of movement in the spine, in the shoulders, in the neck. Maybe not. And then going the other way. But right now it's really about noticing how we're feeling. How's the breathing? Natural breathing. We're looking for nice, natural, as the hands are coming up and the heart's lifting, we're breathing in. Hands are coming down, we're exhaling. We'll bring the hands down and just rub the hands together for a minute. And let's rub the knees too. So it's nice. The joints are a great, even just a little rub with the hands is a nice way to make the joints feel a little bit better. It's really not the joints themselves anyway, it's the muscles around the joints that we're working on. So when I'm doing the knees, I'm really working, the fingers are going, the knee, I'm not really working on this they call the kneecap here. I'm working on the area around it where the muscles come in or the muscles cross. And the same thing with all the other joints. If you give a little rub here like this, even the wrists the same way, the base of the thumbs. We've done this before. That's a nice thing to do if you can do it every day. Remember, start at one end of the body and just work your way up. Nice, makes you feel good. And it also tends to bring a little better circulation into those areas. You know, a little massage without overdoing. So remember to start small, just a little bit, and then you can add to it over time. Those areas get used to the massage, and they actually like it. They'll thank you. Sitting up nice and tall. Feel free to use a pillow behind you for support. Closing the eyes here. Relaxing the shoulders. Focusing on the breath. Feeling the belly going in and out, and letting the breath calm down and go back to normal, get more and more relaxed. So we'll stay here for another minute or two, and remember that if you can spend some time in your Shavasana, just focused on the breath, feeling the belly moving. 5 or 10 minutes is so beneficial. Makes our day go well. Makes us feel better. So see everyone next time. We'll stay for about another minute. And then we'll formally end the class. I'll tap the bell, and but feel free to sign off at any time and continue in Shavasana. And thank you for coming to class today. Thank you for your hard work. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. This is Batya from the Putterham location. Once again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. I also wanted to thank our friends at the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and programs like it. I also wanted to recognize our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, for joining us today and streaming this program to their Facebook page, YouTube page, as well as local channel 3 on RCN and Xfinity. You can also find previous episodes of or sessions of with Keith on the library's YouTube page as well. And with that, thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Keith.